It was something that brought together the best of everything that they'd accumulated and created it. And I think that what we're looking at in that whole area...
Deep beneath the frozen mountains of Siberia, scientists discovered something that shouldn't exist, a tunnel system older than recorded history. Perfectly aligned shafts descending hundreds of meters, carved with geometric precision no known civilization could have achieved. At first glance, it appeared natural, but the angles were too exact, the surfaces too smooth, and when they mapped the passageways, they formed patterns resembling circuitry, massive mechanical veins cut into the mountain itself. The discovery began by accident. In 2017, a geological survey team searching for mineral deposits in the Khara-Hora region detected strange magnetic readings. The signals repeated in perfect cycles, like a pulse. When drones scanned the area, they revealed hollow corridors stretching deep into the earth, perfectly linear, echoing nothing known to nature. That's when the excavation began. At a depth of 30 meters, drills hit something solid, not stone, something harder. When the fragments were brought to the surface, their composition defied classification. A metallic compound unlike any known alloy, resistant to heat and radiation. And embedded within were patterns that looked deliberate, engineered. By the time the second shaft opened, the team realized the structure extended far beyond the scanner's limits. It wasn't a cave, it was a design. Then came the first sound. A low hum, steady, mechanical, rising from beneath the drills. The deeper they dug, the louder it became. But that was just the beginning. The excavation site became a fortress overnight. Only a handful of specialists were allowed access: geophysicists, seismologists, and engineers flown in under strict non-disclosure orders. The Russian government officially labeled it a subsurface anomaly. Unofficially, it was the most restricted dig site in Siberia. When the first descent began, the temperature dropped fast. Cameras recorded thin sheets of frost forming on the metal supports, even though external sensors read above freezing. Inside the shaft, air pressure fluctuated unpredictably. Communication signals scrambled every few minutes, as if something below was interfering with the radio waves. At 20 meters down, the walls changed color, from gray basalt to a dark metallic hue that shimmered faintly under light. It wasn't reflective like steel, more like living skin reacting to energy. Instruments started giving inconsistent readings. The material absorbed radiation, sound, even light. Dr. Elena Voronova, the lead geologist, noted something disturbing in her field log. When we touch the surface, we feel vibration. Not movement, vibration. Like a machine idling somewhere deep within. The deeper they dug, the stronger it became. Drones sent below 60 meters malfunctioned. Their footage froze mid-frame before blacking out completely. One returned to the surface with scorch marks on its underside, as if exposed to directed heat. By the third day, the team had mapped nearly 100 meters of perfectly straight tunnel. No branching, no curvature, no sign of natural fracture. Just one endless descent. And then the humming stopped. Not gradually, instantly. Everything went silent. And in that silence, for the first time, they heard something else. A faint clicking noise, rhythmic, intentional. And it was coming from below them. The clicking grew louder as they descended, echoing off the walls like a metronome in an empty cathedral. It wasn't mechanical, yet not organic either. A pattern too precise to be random, too irregular to be a machine. At 130 feet, the tunnel opened into an enormous chamber. Their lights barely reached the far walls. The beam of the lead miner's floodlight swept across smooth stone blocks, massive, seamless, each one fitted so tightly it looked molded rather than carved. There were no chisel marks, no seams, no dust. Just surfaces polished to unnatural perfection, reflecting light like the inside of an obsidian mirror. "Impossible," whispered Voronova. "This geometry shouldn't exist in nature."
Their instruments confirmed it. Perfect 90-degree angles, identical wall segments, no signs of natural sedimentation or erosion. Then something stranger. The air density dropped abruptly, enough to make breathing uneasy. One of the team members described a metallic taste in the back of his throat. Another reported a low-frequency hum that no one else could hear. Hours later, the power unit flickered. Once, twice, then everything went black. For 11 seconds, they were in complete darkness. The sound of their breathing filled the space until one of them screamed. When the backup lights flickered on, Dr. Voronova's assistant, Pavel, was gone. His helmet and harness lay on the ground, neatly arranged as if placed there deliberately. There were no signs of a struggle, no blood, no drag marks, just a faint smear of heat on the thermal scanner, leading toward a solid wall, and fading as if it had passed through it. The expedition was immediately suspended. But that night, the clicking returned. Only this time, it came from the surface. In the days that followed Pavel's disappearance, the research camp fell silent. No one spoke above a whisper, as if raising their voice might stir something listening beneath the stone. By dawn, the local guides refused to return to the site. They said, the mountain had answered. Khara-Hora, they explained, wasn't a place for men to carve or measure. It was a wound, a scar in the earth sealed by ancient hands. The elders spoke of the hollow mountain, a forbidden zone where the ground breathes and compasses go mad. Birds never fly above it. Animals skirt its borders as if the soil itself repels life. The villagers' stories weren't new. Legends of the sleeping vault stretched back centuries, of strange lights beneath the ground, of humming that came from within the hills during storms. Old hunters told of travelers who followed those lights and never came back. At first, Soviet officials dismissed such accounts as superstition, but declassified field notes later revealed something far stranger. Multiple teams in the 1970s reported magnetic interference strong enough to disable compasses and military radios. Geologists wrote of regular depressions and surface imprints too symmetrical to be natural. Those records were buried in archives. Some were later marked restricted by state order. And yet the villagers still hear it. A rhythmic sound, faint but steady, beneath the earth when the wind dies down. It comes and goes, like a breath. A local priest once described it perfectly. It is the sound of something vast, remembering itself. But folklore wasn't the only thing that haunted Khara-Hora. Hidden in wartime archives was proof that others, far more powerful, had come searching before.
The mystery of Khara-Hora didn't begin with the modern explorers. Its shadow stretches back to one of the darkest chapters in human history. In the summer of 1942, as Nazi Germany launched Operation Edelweiss to seize the Caucasus oil fields, a small team under the Ahnenerbe, Hitler's secret research division, reportedly broke away from the main advance. Their mission wasn't oil, it was knowledge. The Ahnenerbe sought proof of ancient civilizations, evidence of an advanced race they believed predated humanity.
The Caucasus, with its magnetic anomalies and local legends, fit their mythic geography perfectly. Unverified wartime logs recovered decades later mention a hollow mountain and entrances of Cyclopean design. One entry simply read, "The stone breathes." Then, nothing. All records stop mid-sentence. The unit vanished before reaching their rendezvous. When Soviet forces later reclaimed the region, they found scattered German equipment and the half-buried crate bearing the Ahnenerbe insignia. Inside, fragments of carved rock marked with unfamiliar symbols, some resembling swastikas, others geometric runes. The Soviets sealed off the site. 2 decades later, their own teams returned under the guise of geological research. They recorded magnetic spikes, geometric depressions, and radio blackouts. But just like the Germans before them, their reports ended abruptly. Declassified memos from 1979 contain one haunting note. Further excavation not advised. Site demonstrates self-reactive anomalies. Since then, Khara-Hora has remained off-limits, not by nature's choice, but by decree. Whatever both empires sought beneath that mountain, they found something that convinced them to stop digging. But science has never been good at leaving sleeping giants alone. When Russian scientists returned to Khara-Hora Mountain in the early 2000s, technology had finally caught up with curiosity. Ground-penetrating radar, seismic tomography, and high-resolution satellite scans were employed to peel back the mystery. But what they found, however, made no geological sense. The scans revealed a massive, cylindrical void, nearly 400 meters deep, lined with dense material that didn't match any known natural formation. To their astonishment, the walls reflected radar like polished metal, but registered as stone in core samples. A paradox. How could something be both rock and alloy at once? Engineers proposed theories: a volcanic basalt tube, a collapsed lava conduit, even a military bunker from the Cold War. But none explained the geometry. Perfectly symmetrical, perfectly vertical, too smooth to be natural. When a team attempted to lower a probe, it malfunctioned 80 meters in. Its readings spiked. Temperature, magnetism, and radiation all fluctuated wildly before the feed cut off. The probe's camera caught only one clear frame before the blackout. A grid of intersecting lines, glowing faintly in the dark, as if the rock itself were alive. Weeks later, scientists tried again with stronger shielding. This time, the cable snapped cleanly in two. The severed end showed no signs of mechanical stress, almost as if the metal had dissolved. Researchers described an unnerving hum beneath the ground, a low vibration that could be felt rather than heard. Animals avoided the site. Compass needles refused to settle. And yet, beneath the noise, there was a rhythm, pulsing, regular, almost deliberate. It wasn't behaving like an artifact of geology. It was behaving like something alive. By 2008, curiosity had overpowered caution. A private-funded expedition composed of Russian, Czech, and German researchers arrived at Khara-Hora Mountain with one goal: to descend into the shaft. They called themselves Project MIDAS. The plan was simple: deploy drones, then send 2 specialists down a reinforced winch system. Every step was recorded, or was supposed to be. At 40 meters, the first drone's audio feed began to distort. A constant static hum grew louder, pulsing like a heartbeat through the signal. At 70 meters, the camera lens flickered, then went black. Signal interference, the engineers said. But when the drone was pulled back up, its outer casing was warm to the touch, and the LED lights were fused into the shell as if melted from within. Still, the descent continued. Footage recovered from the primary camera showed the walls changing color as they went deeper, from gray basalt to an oily metallic sheen that reflected light unevenly, like liquid mercury rippling across stone. Symbols began to appear, not carved, but embedded into the structure, geometric and symmetrical. At 120 meters, one of the explorers, identified in records as Dr. Pavel Kuczynski, shouted something in Russian before the audio cut. Only one word was clear: "Движется," meaning it's moving.
Moments later, the feed erupted into static. All equipment lost power simultaneously. The rescue team found only the winch cable, severed again, this time from within. 2 days later, a laptop containing fragments of the footage appeared anonymously at a university in Tomsk. The video, grainy and distorted, showed a brief flash before fading to black. A circular chamber, and what looked like a door opening inward. Officially, Project MIDAS never happened. The Russian Ministry of Natural Resources archived it as a geological anomaly assessment, marked top secret/level 4 access. But internal memos leaked years later told another story. One of panic, not science. According to these documents, 2 of the surviving team members were detained under Federal Directive 482, the same law used for nuclear containment breaches. They were questioned about what they saw, and more importantly, what they brought back. An internal summary dated February 14, 2009, mentions a metallic sphere retrieved from the shaft. It was said to emit a low-frequency hum that interfered with recording devices, similar to what destroyed the drone's footage. The artifact was later transferred to a military facility outside Novosibirsk, where it allegedly reacted to electromagnetic scans, producing a faint sound that resembled human speech. Then the report stops. No further references appear in Russian archives, almost as if the operation was scrubbed clean. But the cover-up wasn't perfect. Satellite imagery from that same year shows that the Khara-Hora site was sealed beneath a massive reinforced dome, and all surrounding terrain was classified as a restricted military testing zone. No geological expeditions have been allowed within 10 kilometers since. Still, fragments continued to surface, an encrypted file here, a lost email chain there, all pointing to a single theory whispered among researchers. The shaft wasn't man-made, it was pre-human, and whatever the team found inside wasn't supposed to be found yet. In 2011, a data leak from a defunct Russian research forum revealed several digital scans, strange fractal-like symbols believed to be from the shaft's interior. At first, linguists dismissed them as pareidolia, random shapes misread by overzealous theorists. But when the patterns were compared to ancient petroglyphs from Siberia, Anatolia, and even early Sumeria, the similarities were undeniable. Each symbol corresponded to mathematical constants, not just artistic marks, but coded equations, golden ratios, prime sequences, references to magnetic harmonics that modern geophysicists still struggle to fully decode. One researcher, Dr. Elia Rozana, claimed the patterns formed a kind of algorithmic architecture, suggesting the structure wasn't just built, it was programmed. She proposed that Khara-Hora might not be a mine or a tomb, but a machine,
a living, reactive system buried beneath the surface long before written history. Her findings were published briefly online. Within 24 hours, every link to her paper vanished, and Rosanna herself went missing while traveling to Irkutsk for a geology conference. Her last message to a colleague read, "It's not rock, it's memory." Satellite thermal scans later detected faint energy emissions pulsing from the mountain, cyclical, rhythmic, as if responding to planetary rotation. Every 19.6 hours, the frequency peaked, matching the resonant vibration of Earth's Schumann frequency. The implication was impossible to ignore. Khara-Hora wasn't passive, it was awake. In late 2020, over a decade after the Project MIDAS shutdown, an encrypted data packet surfaced on an anonymous Russian server. It was labeled simply KH Omega Feed. Digital forensics traced the file's origin to a defunct satellite relay once used by geological survey teams, the same frequency range once assigned to Khara-Hora. Inside the archive was a single corrupted audio clip and a still image. The image showed a massive circular chamber deep beneath what appeared to be the shaft's base. It was not stone, nor metal, but something in between, curved like the inside of a colossal shell. At the center stood a smooth monolith, dark and pulsing faintly with blue-white light. The audio was harder to decipher. At first, it sounded like distant wind. Then slowly, voices began to emerge, layered, reversed, human, but not entirely. Experts who analyzed a waveform noted a hidden modulated frequency consistent with human speech patterns. When inverted and cleaned, the final phrase became audible. "You shouldn't have opened it." Within hours of the file's discovery, the original upload and every mirror copy across the web vanished. Accounts tied to the IP address were deleted, and the only surviving frame from the video, the glowing monolith, became an online legend whispered across deep forum threads and conspiracy channels. As of today, the Khara-Hora site remains sealed beneath reinforced steel, but satellite heat maps still detect faint tremors beneath it every few months, rhythmic, calculated, like a heartbeat beneath the Earth. And if the scientists were right, it's still listening.